I'm Kathy, the Adult Services Librarian at the Waynesville Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make reusable beeswax wraps that you can use in the kitchen and kind of get out of the habit of using so much plastic wrap and Ziploc bags. So what we're going to make is a 12 by 12 square like this. I'll show you at the end exactly what the button and the twine is for, but this is what we're going to be making today. And the ingredients that you're going to need for this, jojoba oil and some pine resin, which looks like this when you buy it in big chunks. And then I just bash it with a rolling pin and get it down into a powdered form so it looks like this. This is the amount that you'll need for two 12 by 12 cloths. So the amounts are 1/2 ounce of resin, 2 ounces of beeswax, little tiny pieces. You can grate it yourself or you can buy them already grated into little bits. And 1½ teaspoons of the oil. And then cotton cloth, which the edges have been cut with a pinking shear so that they don't fray. And a reusable glass jar. I'm sorry, not reusable, because this is dedicated just for this craft. You won't want to use this again. So any kind of a glass jar in a pot of water. And that's all you're going to need to get started. So the amounts of the ingredients I gave you are to get the particular texture that I like, which is not too sticky. I don't want it to leave marks on the bowls if I want to cover the top of a bowl. So I don't use a whole lot of pine resin, but I just wanted to mention that you can adjust this to your liking. So in this jar are the ingredients I mentioned before. And you can see that it's become a liquid. It takes about 20 minutes to get it to this state, and I just stir it with a wooden stick. You might have a tiny bit of resin that sticks on the bottom, depending on how big the chunks are. But don't worry about that. It never seems to affect the final product. So now that you've got it in a liquid, you're going to add it to your fabric. So this is a piece of washed cotton, 100% cotton fabric, and I've got it on a cookie sheet with a piece of parchment paper underneath it. This recipe should make 2 to 3 cloths this size. So what you're going to do is you're just going to pour a little bit on here, drip it around. It doesn't have to be exact the first go around, and you'll see what I mean in a moment because we're going to iron it and spread it around. All right, that's about good for your first try. Your parchment paper over the top, and then you're just going to spread it out with the iron. And you can see there's some spots that are still a little dry. It's better to start out with less than it is to have too much. So I always give myself a couple of tries before I get it just right. I have my iron up pretty hot too, so you'll find that it works a lot better if you've got the heat way up. Hopefully you can see this on the camera, see these dry spots here. You're just pushing the mixture out to the edges so that it gets every bit of it. So what I'm going to do now is add a little bit more in these spots that you can see are pretty dry. The glass is not very hot, so I'm just going to grab it and pour it on here a little bit. All right. The trick is to kind of push with the edge of your iron until you get it all the way to the edge. And you can see we're almost there. Now the other way that people like to use, which I've tried several times and I don't like it as much, that is sprinkling all your ingredients on the cloth and then putting it in the oven. But that seems to me to never turn out right. I can't get it to spread real evenly. because like I mentioned before, the wax and the pine resin, they melt at a different time. The wax will melt way before the resin gets done. So, and I've tried painting it on with a paintbrush. That's another thing that people like to do. You'll find all kinds of variant ways on the internet, but I think you should try this way first because it really is the easiest. And so you can see now it's done with the exception of one spot. And let me show you what that looks like. So, oh, there's another one right there. Just a little tiny bit. And that ought to do it. And then you'll be surprised when you see how quickly it dries once you pull it off the parchment. All right, I think that's good. And double check. Yep, that looks good. All right. So, it's completed now. It really just takes a few minutes to dry. If you're making a whole bunch of these, just hang them up with a paper clip. I'm sorry, clothespin, not a paper clip. And they take just a few moments to dry. So here's a little trick that I find to be helpful. If you have a little bit extra, or if you put too much on your first one, you can always put another cloth underneath it, and you will find that a lot of it will get soaked up by the other cloth, and this is kind of an economical way to get even more cloths out of the one recipe. And that's all you have to do. And a couple of ideas for troubleshooting. Look, you can see the one underneath, just about completely covered with a few dry spots. So I'll add a little bit more to that. And then you just hang them up to dry. And just a couple of notes about the cloths. When you get them done and you want to wash them, don't use any soap, just wash them by hand in warm water. Don't ever use them on meat because the bacteria will get in the cloth and it will become unsanitary. You can also get them to form really nicely over a bowl by the heat from your hands. You can even warm your hands up a little bit in hot water and then form it over the bowl. That works really well. I like to use this size for wrapping. So if you have a sandwich, you can just put it in the middle and you can wrap around it. And that's why I put the string and the button on one end, because I like to close it up like this and then just wrap it around and lock it like that, and it stays intact. The other option, if you are handy with a sewing machine, you can actually sew these into a sandwich bag shape, just like that, and just sew some seams up the side. You will probably need a denim needle to do that, something kind of heavy duty, but those are some options for you. If you get too much wax on, don't worry about it. If it's too stiff and you can't get it to be nice and supple like this, you can always heat it up again with some paper towels on either side to soak up some of that wax, and then it will become a little more pliable. To access all library virtual programming and written instructions, please visit the library's website at www.haywoodlibrary.org. And if you have any specific questions about this, I would be happy to help you, so just email me, and thanks for watching.